Guys. So I'm doing this video as I did an introduction the other day, and I honestly meant to get onto these videos a little bit sooner. My original idea was to go out and take it to places where I felt my consciousness or awareness was heightened. That hasn't really happened. Life has happened. So what I'm doing now basically is just discussing some of what's gone on for me in in the last little while. What's brought me to this place where I felt that I can discuss the conscious experience for me. Like I said previously, one of the things which has awakened the side of me has been through movement and through dance, and it's allowed me to meet other people in my area, in the greater Cape Town area, who are doing other conscious activities, and I found that my experience of dance, was going there and feeling uncomfortable, and being put in a situation once or twice a week where I was uncomfortable and I had to move with that uncomfortable feeling. And the more I did that, the more I realized that there was discomfort in growth. And I went to a workshop at one point in this year where we had to say a little prayer or leave with a little few words. And basically, for me, that was discomfort in growth at that time, and it stuck with me for a few months. It's still something that pops up on a regular basis when discussing growth with my friends, and in various situations. Yeah, I need to be aware. For me, I need to be aware that when I'm uncomfortable, or that I need to experience these uncomfortable situations in order to grow. I've been watching a lot of friend of mine, Michael Dale. He has inspired me to do some of this talking, and he speaks a lot about. He's got a concept called the mother theory, which it in short involves staying in those comfortable spaces, in those comfortable experiences, in those habitual patterns. And for me, I don't think the details of my story are necessary for me to share. I don't have to share them to get the point across to you, but you know I had a lot of habitual and ritual practices in my life which kept me boxed in and kept me stuck in a stationary mode, and I couldn't get anything done. I couldn't grow. I couldn't connect spiritually. I couldn't get in touch with my emotions and figure out what was really going on for me, because I had developed a set of habitual patterns and activities which made me feel comfortable and gave me that mothered feeling, and those things essentially prevented me from growing for a very long time. I'm talking 5, 10 years of my life, and I'm not that old, so that's quite a percentage of my life. Probably about my early 20s is when I started looking for ways to connect or to become awakened, and I drifted in and out of looking for that stuff, and there were times where over the past couple of years, where I went back for periods of that habitual, and it went through phases. I had to stop. There were certain behaviors which were very harmful, certain patterns which were very harmful to me, and I managed to stop those first. And it went through stages, and until it came to a point where it came down to looking for it in my relationships. That was the next. Initially there was a little bit of drugs and alcohol, and the places I was going to and the crowds that I was interacting with. And once I took that stuff away, it came down to food and my relationship with other people, you know. And you can call it an experiment, something that I did this year, where because of certain scenarios, I stopped eating meat for 6 months, and I felt amazing. And you know, I like to think while I did it, there were other reasons, but I like to think that while I did it, I didn't do it for because of the animals that were being harmed in the meat production. That's not why I did it. But through doing it, and I've recently started eating meat again, but I had this realization yesterday and today that knowing and being conscious of the process that animals go through for me to get that meat onto my plate, and it's a combination of that and also the fact that I don't really enjoy it anymore. Thinking that I'm eating this animal that essentially died in vain because I'm not enjoying it, and and physically I don't feel like it's contributing to my health at all. I feel like it's actually doing me harm, because since I've started eating meat, I've been sick or slightly sick for a month. And that's not the point of this video. I'm not here to advocate or support or not support meat eating. But for me, it's an example. I stopped it for a while and I picked it up again, and because of the conscious growth that happened between now and then, I can sense that effect that it's having on my body and on my life and on my consciousness, and I can't ignore it. So it hit me this morning. I don't need to be a revolutionary and tell people, be an activist and tell people, go out on the street and scream that people don't need to eat meat or they shouldn't or it's wrong. But for me personally, it's doing something to my process. It's doing something to my growth, and it's making me uncomfortable in a really bad way. It's creating feelings of guilt and you could even say shame. Because I'm starting to see it as a destructive behavior towards myself. When I eat it, I don't feel bad, so why do I keep doing it? My answer there is because it's habitual. It's because everybody else around me is doing it as if there's nothing wrong with it, and if it's as if it's not affecting them, and maybe it isn't, but it's affecting me. And my conscious journey has shown me that when it's affecting me, that that's when I need to stop and take a look at it. So yeah, that's an example of kind of when I've done something that's kind of that's not initially, it wasn't a conscious thought. It was just because, or a conscious decision. It was because of the circumstances of the people I was interacting with, and the things I happened to do over the last couple of months that I got into that initial stage of not eating it. But because of my growth and because of my awareness, I can be honest with myself about how it's affecting me, and I can see that there's a potential benefit to cutting it out of my life. So yeah, that that for me that for me is the the idea behind being conscious and being aware. That I can tap into what's really going on for me, and making sure that my decisions aren't based on the things that other people are saying or doing, uh, in general, and about my situation. I think something that's been coming up for me a lot lately is through meditation. I have been getting to this point where I feel, I get down to the gut and I get down to this compass, and I can sense what works for me and what doesn't. And usually when I start to dance, um, there's a question on my mind or there's a topic on my mind, and I dance with this topic, and I dance around it. I try to get to this embodied state, but this topic is always on my mind. I was describing it to somebody the other day, and it's kind of like when I sit down in the ideal meditative state, and Not like there is really an ideal meditative state. But when I sit in a still space through meditation, I kind of envision this clear space in the center of my brain, or of my mind. And if I meditate at the beginning of the day, I feel like I can pin these practical tasks to either side of my mind, But when I get wrapped up in something like an obsession or something that affects me emotionally, and it takes over my day, it's like this big banner that's being plastered across the inside of my forehead, and it takes over everything I do. I can't do anything practical. I can't get to any of these practical tasks without looking at that banner every time, and going, I need to feel guilty about this. I need to feel sad about this. I need to feel angry about this. I need to feel frustrated because this is a big deal. And the idea behind meditation for me is to take that banner away. Sure, I need to honor things, and that's something that's very important. I need to look at what's going on for me, and what do I consider a big deal, and then I need to put it aside. I need to carry on with the practical things in my day. And for me, that's often the really big practice. If something is a big deal for me, I go on and I do smaller practical tasks, and by the time I've done 3 or 4, 5 of them, I know that issue, maybe it means a lot to me, but I don't have to spend all of my time thinking about it and obsessing about it and freaking out about it. Because that is the habitual mode that I created for myself over the years. To attach my identity to this one big thing that's happening for me, or that I'm responding to, and and to act in self-destructive ways, to almost like this big banner or this big incident is an excuse for me to act in self-destructive ways, and to not choose the conscious choice, or the healthy choice, or the slightly uncomfortable choice that might benefit me in the long run, you know. So back to the process of the dance for me. I come in with a question, and this question is sometimes in the form, depending how serious it is for me, in the form of that banner, of this big thing that is taking up space in my life, in my consciousness, and in my day. It's sucking the life out of me normally on a bad day. And when I dance with it, what I find is that, you know, usually in this situation, there's two scenarios. I want to react to it, or I know that there's a possibility of me not reacting to it, letting it go, and letting things play out. But my habitual way of dealing with it is to react, is to impose my way on the situation, on the person, on the event, on the thing, and not to let it play out the way the universe, or some sort of power greater than myself, you know, has it planned. So when I get down to that deep gut feeling at the end of a dance, or in the middle of a dance, or through some form of other meditation, it's like my compass is a little bit more calibrated, and I've got all the clouds and the top layers off of this. I've taken all the crap off the top of the pile, and I can see where the compass is actually pointing. And it's allowed me to just get honest with myself and be like, all right, this is what I think the right decision is, and this is what the wrong decision is. And if I go with this reaction, if I go with this story that I tell myself about how I need to tell this person about how they've offended me, or how they've screwed me over, or how wrong how I felt I've been wronged in the situation, because that was a big story for me. That was a big role. I've got to show that I'm this macho man who's going to tell you off when you flirt with my girlfriend, or embarrass me publicly or say something in front of somebody else that, you know, can make me seem like a lesser man or a lesser person, then I've got to retaliate. I've got to show everybody that I can come in guns blazing and not let this thing slide. So that was a popular story for me. But, I found that through consciously in those situations, just humbling myself and being like, I need to let this go. It's better for my process. It's usually better for my relationship with the other person, and I need to just accept the fact that my reaction or my feeling towards what's going on in the world is not everything. Just because I feel unjust about something doesn't mean that it is wrong. You know, again, a good friend of mine is speaking lately a lot about our needs and my need to act on this stuff. And when I retaliate to people, I'm acting on this need to be heard, to be felt, to be seen as somebody of importance, or somebody who is strong and stable and doesn't show emotion, because that's what I've been conditioned my whole life to think, that that's how I need to act, that I can't show emotion, I can't show my vulnerability, but a little bit of total honesty for me is that the last 2 or 3 years of my life have gotten so much better when I showed that vulnerability, when I showed my true self, and when I just share with people honestly. I said it to a friend in the last couple of days that, for me, the thing I'm most grateful for at this point in time is the ability to go into a space like a class or a tribe or a group and to honestly share about what's going on for me and know that chances are when I tell somebody else what I'm thinking or what I'm feeling, their response is going to make me feel supported, and it's not about me going there looking for a need to be supported. It's because I believe that in my process sharing is important, and I need to share how I'm feeling on a regular basis. Partly because I need to get it out, partly because when I say things out loud, I realize how stupid they sound in my head, and also because on that same note, when I share it with other people, I get feedback. Where I share it with the right people who do support me on a regular basis emotionally, they can say to me, "Hey, that's just in your head, or you're just telling yourself that you're just you're just doubting yourself. You're just going back to that role, that story, that you're not worth it, and what you have to say isn't good enough." That is the story I told myself for years, and sometimes I get a bit of a fright because I'm not living that role all the time anymore. I am definitely in smaller ways. And there are things I do when I doubt myself and I freak out about can I do this? Can I do this job? Can I interact with this person? They know too much, therefore my spiritual journey isn't as good as theirs. But I'm strongly starting to believe that the amount of time I've spent growing is not relevant, is not connected to whether I have something valuable to share. And this is why I'm here talking right now, because I feel that the practice of me sharing as if I have something to share is putting me in a better space, is making me believe that I have something that I've learned that I can give to other people. And when I give to other people, I grow and I get something back. So, it's that idea of consciousness and being aware of this stuff, being aware of my growth, being aware of where I want to go. I will do more on this. I'm going to wrap it up now. I'm looking for some feedback, for some criticism. Let me know if you enjoy my structure. I'm going to be working more on the processes that have gone on for me, and hopefully some of you can relate to them. Thanks for watching.